Getting smarter by reading books in school. It is time for Reader's Workshop. Reading is really cool.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have been working very hard on inferring. That means that we're making inferences. And making inferences means we have to do some things, because when you have to make inferences, it means it's not right there in the story for you. You have to figure it out using some clues. We have learned already that there are two kinds of clues that help you infer the meaning of something. We can use right here what you see in the pictures and in the text. So we got a little person with an eyeball looking real close in the story. Plus, maybe remember we have a little math equation, plus right here what you already know in your brain. So here's a little person thinking about what they already know. If you do what you see plus what you know, you can figure out, you can infer the meaning of something. You can figure it out because it doesn't tell you. You have to make a good guess using the evidence, the clues, to help you figure it out. So we have already learned we can infer the meaning of a bunch of different things. We learned how to infer the meaning of words, like those big, huge 5th grade words that we looked at. Even though we're 2nd graders and we looked at those big 5th grade words, we were able to take what we see plus what we know in our brains to help us figure out what those words meant. We also talked about characters. We looked at what was happening in the story, plus what we already kind of know about people and how they act, and we inferred what kind of characters they were. We learned how to infer the meaning and the moral of the story. What was the author trying to get across to us? What was the message he or she was trying to teach us about life? We learned on the last time, on Tuesday, how to do the analogies. Remember, that was a big word that just means when you have one word compared to another word, and then the third word, you have to figure out how the 4th word goes with the 3rd word. So that was pretty tricky. We had to have words that go together, and we had to figure out what the other words that could go together as well. Today, I can show you another thing you can infer. This is the trickiest one. So I saved the best for last. Today we're going to infer how to, what's called, read between the lines. If you've ever heard Mama and Daddy talking, and they're not really telling something, they're kind of trying to hide what they're talking, they're kind of like sounding like they're talking in code. They're like, remember when we're going to do that? And then they say other things to kind of trick you, to get you off, and really you can try to figure out what they're talking about. They may be like, oh, well, you know, if the kids were really good, maybe we could go someplace where there's like frozen things and, you know, it comes in a cone, maybe if they're really good. And you are probably thinking, they just said something about a cone. They just said something about something being frozen. So that's what you see. That's what you see them saying. You already know in your brain what comes in a cone and what's frozen. Can you already think of something that might be frozen that probably tastes very good? Oh, don't tell me. So you guys are actually smarter than that because you are putting it all together and you're reading between the lines. You're really figuring out what they're talking about even though they're not really saying what it is. So what they're really saying is that if you guys were really good, they might take you for ice cream. They might be taking you for ice cream. So the last kind of inferring we're going to be working on for now is called reading between the lines. They're not really telling you what's happening, but you can kind of use the clues to figure out what they're talking about. Today we're going to see a lot of stories. It's going to be just like that ice cream story I told you. They're going to tell you a lot of information, but they're not going to tell you what they're really talking about. You have to read between the lines and try to figure out what's happening. There's a question and you have to figure out the answer to it by guessing, by using all your clues, what you see in the story, what you already kind of know in your brain about things that happen in life, put it together to infer the meaning. Because we know that inferring is a big skill that readers have to do when they're trying to understand what's happening in the story. So, check it out. Camila, will you pull the cap off the Elmo? Check it out. We've got some quick stories. So short. But there's a question at the end, and it doesn't give you the direct answer. You have to put the clues together to figure it out. You have to read between the lines. Check out number 1. The cool thing about it is we also have that think mark we've been using. We have a think mark that says that I see in the pictures and the text. I know from background knowledge what you already know, and what you can infer. You can use a think mark today to help you if you want to. You don't have to. If you want to just think it through in your brain, you can do that. But you can also use a think mark today. So for number 1, I used a think mark to help my brain get turned on and focused. Number 1, listen in and follow along with me. Karen watered the rose plant. It was in a pot. Then she spotted water leaking under the pot. She did not want water stains under the shelf. So she put some old newspapers under the pot. As she did this, the sun hit her and the rose. Tomorrow, the rose would be in a new pot. That's the story. The question is, where did Karen keep the flower pot? Did it say? You have to read between the lines. You have to use the clues to help you figure this one out. So here's what I saw in the text. Here's what I saw, and I already underlined it because that kind of helps me remember what I saw in there. Here's the 3 things I underlined. Number 1, it was in a pot. Number 2, did not want water stains under the shelf. No stains on the shelf. Number 3, the sun hit her and the rose. The sun hit her and the rose. Those are the 3 clues that I see in the story. Now I had to think in my brain. What do I already know about flowers and pots and the sun and all those things? Number 1, I don't put flowers in the pots and then plant the pot in the ground. So I don't think it's in the ground. Like normal plants are in the ground, I don't think it's outside in the ground because you wouldn't put a flower in a pot and then put the pot in the ground. That doesn't make any sense. Number 2, I know that I keep shelves on the porch and inside. I have shelves like bookcases in my house, and I also have them on my back porch. Number 3, Karen, the little girl. Karen must be near outside to have the sun, because it said the sun right here. The sun hit her with the rose. So I know if she's somewhere near the sun, then she's got to be either outside or close to it somewhere. Here's what I was inferring. She must keep the flower pot by the window in a shelf, or maybe she has it outside on a shelf, maybe on the porch. Those are the only 2 places that I could think of where the sun could hit the flower and hit her. Now, are they talking about the sun really hitting her, like punching her? No, it means like the sun's shining on her. The sun was shining on her and the flower. The only 2 places it can be is outside or by a window, because it's in a flower pot. And I have flower pots on a shelf on my porch, and and where the sun's hitting it, I also have them right by the window where the sun is hitting it. So that helps me figure out that it must be somewhere either by the window or on a shelf on the porch. Let's look at number 2. I'm not going to use a think mark this time. I'm just going to think aloud as you guys follow along. Number 2, Leon. Leon's a boy. Leon pulled his pencil out of the sharpener. Then he shook the shavings off the pencil. It looked fine. He was ready to start writing again. Why did Leon stop writing in the first place? Did it say? Can we read between the lines to figure it out? Let's use our clues. What you see, what you know, and think about it, think it through. So watch how I can think it through. I'm not even going to use my think mark this time. Watch this. You know what? I'm going to get my pencil, though, and underline what I see, because that helps me a lot. Leon pulled his pencil out of the sharpener. Okay? So it just came out of the sharpener. That's pretty important. Then he shook the shavings off the pencil. It looked fine. He was ready to start writing again. So writing again. Okay. What I see is that he had his pencil in the sharpener. So it came pencil out of the sharpener. That tells me some information right there. I also see that he was ready to start writing again. That's the 2 clues I see in the story. here's what I know in my brain. Here's me thinking. Here's what I'm thinking in my brain. I'm thinking that the only reason I would go to the sharpener is to sharpen my pencil because it's not sharp. I'm not going to take a sharpened pencil and go stick it in the sharpener. That's silly. That would be a waste of my time. So I must have had to go, or Leon must have had to go to the sharpener because his sharpener was not very sharp. So the question is, why did Leon stop writing in the first place? Well, I see that he went and took it out of the sharpener. I see that he was ready to write again. I know that I would only sharpen my pencil if it's not sharp, which is called being dull. I infer, here's my answer, why did Leon stop writing? I infer that he stopped writing in the first place because the pencil either broke or had gotten dull. Did it say that in the story? No, but I could read right through the lines. I could take those clues and put them together in my brain to figure out that he must have stopped writing because it was broken or it was too dull for him to write anything. So, your turn. You ready to try it?
Yeah.
Number 3. The dog looked up and down the street. Think about what's happening. The man waited until the dog stepped off the curb. Then the man followed the dog. They crossed the street. Here's what you have to infer. Read between the lines. Why did the man wait for the dog? Camelia, will you take just my think mark and move it off, and let's have a blank think mark we can work on together. Just pull it right off.
Where?
There you go. Nope, move it off the screen. There you go. Read it one more time. The dog looked up and down the street. The man waited until the dog stepped off the curb. Then the man followed the dog. They crossed the street. All right, raise your hand if you can point to a clue. I'm going to let you come up and do it. Let's see. Point or underline a clue for us. Ooh, read it to us when you're finished.
The man waited until the dog stepped off the curb.
All right, that sounds like a good clue. Who has another clue they want to come do? Underline another clue for us. Think of that. That's clue number 1. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Any final clues that you think are important? Last one. Aha. Very interesting. Very interesting. You got it. Good job. Okay, thank you. Let's write it quick. What I see, number 1, I see the dog looked up and down. The dog. Notice it didn't say the man, it said the dog. The dog looked up and down. We'll write it short. The man waited until the dog stepped off the curb. Number 2, the dog stepped first. Interesting. Number 3, the man followed the dog. Man followed dog. What do you know in your brain already? What do you know in your brain that we can add of what we know about what's happening with the dog and with the man? Something's very special about this dog and this man. What do you know?
People usually look both sides, left and right, instead of up and down.
Okay, they do. And did you notice she said people usually look? People usually look Can I try both ways? Is that okay? Both ways before crossing. Okay? Anything else that we know already in our brain? Anything important? Yes.
That you shouldn't let the dogs follow because they might sit and go in bad places.
Okay, so the man should go first, then the dog, normally? Okay, so normally, man goes, then the dog. All right, let's put these two things together. The dog looked both ways. The dog stepped first. The man was following the dog. That's what we learned. That's what we see. We know that people are usually the ones that look both ways before they cross the road. We know that people are usually the ones that walk first and then the puppy dog. So what is happening here? What can you infer? Read between the lines. What can you infer? Why did the man wait for the dog? Why did he let the dog go first?
Because the dog must have been a guide dog.
Did you hear that? Can you explain why you said that? He infers it must be a guide dog. Do you know what a guide dog is? It's for people that what?
That are blind.
People that are blind. If you can't see up and down or left or right down the road, if you can't see where the car is coming, how are you ever going to cross the road? This man has a dog. We can infer, or instead of saying I infer, we can say we infer that the dog was a guide dog because the man couldn't see. So why did he wait for the dog? Because the dog is a guide dog to help the blind man cross the road. Whew, barely fit it on. Okay, you have just had the chance to practice with a think mark. Today, you will have your own 4 stories. 4 different boxes on the paper. You have the chance to read between the lines. Are you ready to be a detective? You've got to use the clues. Remember, what you see in the story, did you see how we were underlining? Did you notice how underlining really helped us figure out what was in the story? Plus what you know. You have to really think about what you know in life to infer the meaning. Read between those lines. If you want to use a think mark like this, they are over on the counter. You don't have to use a think mark. It's there as an option. It's a strategy you can use to help you. You don't have to. If you want to just underline and think it through in your brain, you're welcome to do that. It's going to be a story, then a question, or 2 maybe. Number 1 and 2 are very easy. Number 3 and 4, ultimate challenge. So, if you are ready for the ultimate challenge, do number 1 and 2 first and try them out. Try to infer what's going on, read between those lines, and then number 3 and 4, ultimate challenge. Today you are working with just a pencil and the paper. When you finish that, it's Fun Friday. You are welcome to work on your books. We will be changing our books a little bit later. So right now you'll just be reading your books for the last time before you change them for next week's new books. Your paper is 4 stories. They're very short. Questions underneath them. You can write right on the paper. Name and number across the top. Okay. If you are a lady, you are invited to stand and tiptoe to your seat. Francesca's going to bring a lady all of her papers. Gentlemen, please stand. Head on out. Your friend will bring you your papers. Okay, can I see my group in the back, please? book of Carrie McLeod. And this story is called Special Clothes. And we can preview it by looking at the front cover, looking at this little girl. And we see she's in all these crazy kind of clothes. Looks like she's got a hat on, and she's got these kind of clothes. So we were really working on previewing before we even started. Today I'm going to listen in as you're reading, and then we're going to see what else we can work on, because we've already worked on previewing, so we're going to see how else we can go with this one. So in just a second, I want you to start reading, and when I come in close to you, I want you to read to me, okay? But if I'm not reading, if I'm not coming in close to you, I just want you to read silently to yourself, okay? So go ahead and open up to the beginning. Go ahead and preview before you start, since that's our story from last time. Put the book flat down so you can see it too. Preview, and then you can start reading to yourself. Alright, let me stop you real quick for a second. I'm going to show you something, another thing the readers do. I noticed that all of you were doing a good job with your voice, making it sound like you were just talking. But there's another trick you can do. Another trick is called chunking the words together, so that you can read small parts of the sentence together, and then when you put it together, it sounds a lot more smoother. As I noticed that some of you are sounding just a little bit like a robot, because you're reading word and word and word. So I'm going to help you. It's called phrasing. Guys, trying to get your phrasing together means chunking the words together. So let's look at page 2 real quick. Yeah, let's look at page 2. Point your finger at page 2. Right there at the beginning. Let's just look at page 2 real quick. When you look at this, a good place to chunk the words is wherever the commas are. Point your finger to a comma in the first sentence. See the little comma? Notice it comes right with a one word. So what you can do is you can chunk those two words together right before the comma, and you can read them together. So watch how you can do this. You can say, one morning, and then see how I kind of stopped right there? You can chunk them together. So instead of saying, one morning, and saying two separate words, you can say, one morning. Then you can chunk the next couple words together, like Serena saw her father. That can all go together. So you can say, Serena saw her father. See how I put them all together? Ready? Wearing a colorful apron. See how we can chunk it into the different sections? Okay. I want you to finish reading this page, and when I listen to this, I want to see how you're chunking the words. Okay? So I'm going to start over here. Go ahead and read to yourself. Okay, the next sentence. What can you chunk together? Good. Now what else can you chunk together? That can kind of go by itself, right? And then what else could go together in that sentence? Okay, so when you read it, we're chunking that together, that by itself, and that together. Go ahead.
Something about bears or whatever.
So where was that? About the bears right here? Yeah. Okay.
And then from there back, probably Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Why? Why did you know that?
Well, because once they walk, bears from here, all I can think of is Goldilocks.
Why? Have you read this or anything?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and so you use that information again. The little bears came home, and then you know that. What about this part of here? You wonder why she ate the porridge and fell asleep. What do you know about that?
Well, I think the porridge is like a little fruit.
It's kind of like an oatmeal.
And
But how does that help you figure out that you inferred that it's Goldilocks?
well, because she was probably hungry, and then when she ate it, if TJ would feed somebody
pet a carrot. It
So
would
that-
probably be like a bunny or a rabbit.
So that's what you saw in the story, was that TJ had put a carrot in the cage? Okay. And what did you know in your brain about carrots?
That bunnies and rabbits usually eat them.
Absolutely. So that helped you put what you saw right here, the carrot, and put in the cage, plus what you already knew about rabbits liking carrots. You put that together to figure out the bunny. How did you figure out this one? What other things might Papa like to eat?
Vegetables, because rabbits and bunnies usually like live in gardens.
How do you know that?
Because at my grandma's they have a garden, and bunnies and rabbits usually get in there and try to steal some of their food.
Good. So you use what you already know, your prior knowledge about your grandma, and you can kind of make a connection because you've seen it in real life. You've seen they like carrots and they like other vegetables. And how you said that this story really happened? How do you know that this story could really happen?
Because it's not like the bunny would. It's not like the bunny's talking
Good.
or anything.
That's right. The bunny wasn't talking. So these are all things that could happen about being in a cage and liking carrots and stuff. So.
Time for reader share, share. We do it every day. It's time for reader share, share. It's not time to play. Every day we're getting smarter by sharing books in school. It's time for reader share, share. Sharing is really cool.
Today you became really super smart because you were able to read between the lines. Now you guys are probably going to I'm probably going to get you in trouble this weekend because you're going to go home and you're going to hear Mom and Dad talking and you're going to go, psh, I know what you're talking about, because you can read between the lines now. You know that you can take what you see or what you hear them talking about and put it with what you already know in your brain, and you can infer the meaning of what they're talking about. So don't get me in trouble this weekend because I taught you guys how to trick Mom and Dad into figuring out what they're talking about. Let's check out some of the ultimate challenges from today. You think they were ultimate challenges?
No.
No? They were easy peasy?
Yes.
Because you guys are so smart. What am I going to say? Story number 3. Let's check that out real quick. TJ went to look in the cage. There was his new pet Hopper. The carrot TJ had put in the cage was gone. I guess Hopper was hungry, he said, kind of like me, all the time. What kind of animal is Hopper? Tell me what you see so I can underline it. What do you see? What did you see in this story that was so helpful? Okay, new pet Hopper. What else is important? What else did you see in there that helps us read between the lines? Bless you.
The carrot TJ
Aha.
was gone.
Carrot TJ put in the cage was gone. There's what you see. Now what do you know in your brain about a pet Hopper? Think of the name Hopper. Plus what we put in the cage. What do you know in your brain? Put those together. What did you already know in your brain?
Bunnies eat carrots.
You know that the animal, because it said it's a pet, you know an animal that eats carrots is bunny rabbits or rabbits, right? So we can infer what kind of animal is Hopper. Everybody, what is it? Rabbit. It's a rabbit. You're so smart. Okay, what other things might Hopper like to eat? Hold on, I gotta tell you something. When I went to see one of my friends, he goes, hey, Mrs. McLeod, I actually grew up with my grandmother who had a farm, who had vegetables and carrots growing in her yard. And she used to have rabbits hopping around. And I know that not only did it eat the carrots, but it eats what else? What else were you telling me? It eats other vegetables too, like cabbages and lettuce. So this friend actually already knew ahead of time because his grandmother actually has a farm with all the other kinds of vegetables. And he's seen a real bunny do it. That was so cool that we had that connection. So it definitely can eat, we'll put veggies. And could this story really happen?
No.
Yes.
Why do you say yes?
Because bunnies can eat carrots and people can get
bunny rabbits as pets.
Absolutely. Every single thing in this story could really happen. Can you have a cage?
Yes.
Yes. Can you really have a pet named Hopper?
Yes.
Can you put a carrot in the cage and it be gone?
Yes.
Can you see that it was hungry?
Yes.
Another friend was saying to me, oh, and by the way, there was no animals talking in this. And so that was another clue that it was not going to be a silly story. It could be real. All right, we're only going to do one part of this one. Number 4, this one was the ultimate challenge, but when I was walking around, I think you guys got it. The little girl went into the house. No one was home. She sat in the chairs. She ate the porridge. She fell asleep. When the bears came home, the little bear started to cry. What is this little girl's name? What do you see? What do you see in the story that I can underline? What do you see? What are some key words in it that helps us? Okay. Went into the house. What else?
She ate the porridge.
Ate porridge. What else? What else? What else?
No one was home.
Okay. How about the bears? The bears. What is the little girl's name? What was her name, everybody?
Goldilocks.
Of course it's Goldilocks. And what was the clue? Goldilocks. What was the serious, gigantic clue you already know in your brain, probably from kindergarten or first grade? What do you know? What did you already know in your brain that really was helpful?
That Goldilocks snuck into the bear's house and she tried out everything, even the beds, and she keeps falling asleep every single place.
Give me a thumbs up if you've read that story before. Oh, it's a good thing you have that prior knowledge to help you out. All right, good job, friends, today. I think you're very much smarter, and Mom and Dad, I'm probably going to get in trouble with them this weekend, because now you're so much smarter you can read between the lines. Great job.